We've all had this nightmare before. You finally accomplish your dream of buying a home. You feel complete with your life. You feel satisfied. You've made it. Congratulations. Then you check out the news and the housing market is tanking. Your house is now worth a fraction of what you paid for. And the worst part is you're now the laughingstock of all your friends and family members. And your dad was right. You ended up being a failure in life. Now, maybe I got a little personal and a little dramatic at the very end, but we've all had this nightmare. It's completely terrifying. But really, let's really break down what would really happen if you bought a house and the market just completely took a dump on you. The reality is it's not going to impact everybody the same. Depending on the choices you make today, you can be in three very different outcomes. In one scenario, you can buy a house and have a very stretched out budget. 2, you can buy within your means. And 3, you can decide to wait. So let's make up 3 different people and let's play out each scenario to see how each one fares with a market downturn. But first, let's talk about how it looks like when the market takes a dump on you. Sorry for the very colorful language, but let's just go with it because it really is not a pretty sight, is it? First things first, it's not like a stock ticker. Like people look at values like in stocks and companies and they see that it's worth this price per share. And you can check the price, like the values of it going up and down. You can see if it's going up in value or down in value. It's not that simple with houses. Houses are valued based off the comparables, meaning what other houses that are similar are selling for in the immediate area. So let's say you purchased a house for $420,000. Now, in theory, if no other houses in the neighborhood ever go for sale again, your house is now cemented at that price, $420,000. And the only way it would go up or down in value is if you make modifications, additions, you add a pool in the back, you make it look nicer, and then you can give or take, not necessarily add a actual cost value to the house, but maybe you can give an estimation of like, hey, I added a pool, it cost me $60K. There's other pools, not necessarily in the immediate area, but just in general, they add about another $20K of value. So in theory, your house is now worth $440,000, right? Well, how it really works is, let's say a neighbor decides to sell a house that's very similar to yours, similar square footage, similar bedrooms for $440,000. And if they sell that house for $440,000, your house is now actually worth $440,000. And of course, we can look at the actual upgrades and whatnot. If your house is technically in nicer condition and shape, we can, give it more or less, give it more value than $440,000. But let's say your neighbor who listed their house for $440,000 is having trouble selling it. And after, let's say 3 months, 4 months, they're in a position where they're forced to sell it. They have to be out and they eventually have to take a price deduction and they sell their house for $400,000. Well, now your house that you purchased for $420,000 is technically worth about $400,000. Because remember, when you're pricing your house, if you're looking at logically, you're looking at what comparables, what other houses that are similar are selling for. And the trend continues. As more neighbors decide to now sell their house and they're using this new $400,000 as the comparable, they put their house for $400,000. And then let's see what happens there. Maybe after a month or two, they can't sell it for $400,000. So they have to end up selling for $390,000. And then maybe another neighbor follows suit and now they do the same thing and their house sells for $380,000. Eventually it'll get to the point where, like, let's say it does hit $380,000 and a lot of people are having much more luck selling consistently without having to reduce their price for $380,000. Now we can safely assume that your house that's worth $420,000 when you bought it is worth about $380,000. And no, it doesn't matter if your baby was born in it or you decided to hand paint a picture of SpongeBob on the wall. We have to use at the actual comparables to get a good idea of the value. So really, when your house price drops, it's more a slow death. It's like bleeds out. It's not very as quickly like, oh, you just lost all this value automatically. It doesn't even take one comparable. It has to be a good amount of data, like multiple houses that sell for a lower price to get a good area, because just one house selling at a lower price isn't going to make it. So it's a slow process and it takes 6 months to a year to 2 years. Like it could be a while for that price drop to really happen. And not only that, but your price could drop and eventually it'll hit that spot. And then for some reason, more buyers come out of the woodwork and prices start going up again, right? So let's just logically, I have to really picture that for you guys, because a lot of you guys just think that your house you're going to buy it, it's just going to massively lose value and you're going to be complete laughing stock. That's not how it would work. But let's start with our first scenario. Let's start off with Sam. Sam was an emotional buyer. They're buying a house because they felt like they needed to. They saw their friends or their family members buy houses and they say, hey, why not us? Interest rates sucked and really they weren't in the best position, but they're like, hey, let's just go get ourselves a house. They qualified up to $480,000, but they said, you know what, let's buy a house for $420,000, $430,000, $440,000 because we're not dumb, right? Although $420,000 is still about like 30 or 45% of their net income, but they're like, we're not going to be dumb and do all the way. They still should have gone lower. But anyways, they get themselves a house for $420,000. Maybe they end up not getting it under list price, but they pay like $430,000 for their house because they got $10,000 in concessions and they're there. They bought their house. So basically 50% of their gross income is about 66% of their net income. So let's just say about 60%. So by just going off the lender's pre-qualification, their monthly payment is going to make up 60% of their net income, and that will still be fine. It'll go through the underwriting and Sam thinks it's okay. That only leaves them 40% of their income to pay every other bill to basically survive off of. The thing about them and why people are doing it is they may feel like things are great now and they're going to continue to be good. And we have good jobs now, we have good bonuses now, and things are going to continue to go on the up and up. They think, well, surely because my income has gone up at, let's say, 3-5% a year, it's going to continue to do that. And two, they may be being told by outside sources like the realtor, lender, friends, and family members that interest rates will eventually drop. And when they drop, you just simply refinance. Your monthly payment just magically lowers and you're happy. So let's say after a 6 month to a year period, the prices drop and their house is now worth about $350,000. So they purchased for $430,000 and it's worth about $350,000 now based on the comparables of what they're selling for. How does that look like for them? Well, in reality, people need to realize that the only way you're really affected by houses prices dropping is if you decide to sell or refinance your house. So really, the position that they got put in now is if they ever want to sell their house, they simply can't. Or if they ever want to refinance, they simply can't, because when we refinance, you have to do a appraisal on it. According to Rocket Mortgage, refinancing a home with negative equity is more complicated than a standard refinance. Under most circumstances, a lender cannot loan you more money than your home is worth. This means that if your home has negative equity, your lender might require you to bring cash to closing to make up the difference. Now, of course, there's special programs and whatnot, but let's not live in La La Land. If you have negative equity, you're going to be put in a bad spot. You're going to not be able to refinance. So essentially, the situation that Sam finds themselves in is they can't do anything. They are not able to refinance. They're not able to sell. So because they basically locked themselves in a tight financial situation. Now, imagine you're in a pool. You're walking down to the deep end, and eventually you get to the point where the water's at your neck. Like you're standing on your tippy toes, and like, okay, this is dangerous, but you're fine. You're breathing. You're alive. But what happens if you get a cramp? What happens if a storm hits and the water starts moving up and down? What if it rains and the water level goes up? It takes a little bit of effort to put yourself in a dangerous situation. And what Sam did is they put themselves in a dangerous situation because they bought over their means. Now, 60% of their net income isn't an amazing situation to be in. And now they're stuck in this position. Now they have a few options here. They can magically start making more money somehow. Either they get themselves in a throuple where there's 3 people with great income, or they magically get a job promotion where they start making more money and they don't get new expenses when they get more money, because a lot of people start making more money and then they get more expenses. Trust me, that was me. Don't do that. Second situation they can find themselves in is they become a complete monk and get rid of every single one of every other debt. They never take any new debt. They get rid of everything else. So that way this massive payment is the only thing that they really have to worry about. And the third thing is nothing ever goes wrong. They never have any emergency. They never have anything that takes up extra money of that they can basically predict, and everything's fine. And unfortunately, there's another fourth one is they can't plan anything. They can't get a nicer car. They can't use extra money to go travel. They're in a very tight spot. Now, there's a few things I've learned in life. I'm 30 years old. I've learned a few things. I've learned that, hey, maybe you shouldn't comment on your wife's appearance. Learn how to listen. Don't be a butthole. Tacos are amazing. Maybe you shouldn't drink so much soda. But there's one thing I really learned that I want to apply to you guys is anything that will go wrong will go wrong. Or in other words, Murphy's Law. And I know it's something I heard a lot, and I was like, it's not true. No, seriously, dude. The worst case scenario usually happens. And maybe it's not always true, but if you don't plan for that worst case scenario, you're going to be in a terrible spot. And the worst thing that Sam did is Sam put themselves in a situation where nothing can, like, they hope and pray that nothing goes wrong. And if they get really lucky and nothing ever goes wrong, then they're going to be okay. They're going to be alive. The water's going to be right here, but they're going to be okay. But if they get a cramp or the water levels change or something happens, they're going to put themselves in a bad position. Now let's talk about Alex. Alex was in a very similar situation. She was making about the same amount of money. She qualified for about the same amount, but she decided to get something a little more modest. She did not buy in her dream area or the best house. She went a little bit on the outskirts, bought a little smaller home, and only ended up spending about $350,000. Now, just because you buy a cheaper house, it doesn't shield you from any market drops, right? And that's the one thing I feel like there's any criticism I've been receiving lately as I'm telling people to buy more modest homes is like, hey, it doesn't mean you're going to lose value. And it's 100% right. But here's the difference between Alex and Sam. She bought her house within her means, so her payment is about 25% of her net income. This leaves approximately 75% of her income as bonus income to do that. And with that extra income, she puts herself in a few situations. So first and foremost, she buys her house, bought it for $350,000. Now prices drop. The house is not worth, let's say, $280,000, $300,000. So similar situation. She can't refinance. She can't sell. She has to stay in this house and hold on to it as long as possible until prices go up. So similar situation to Sam, stuck in the house. But the difference is that she has 75% of extra income. So I might say that maybe the first few months, she has to apply a little bit extra of that money to put the house back in shape, because usually when you buy a house in a more modest area or in the same area but it needs work, you end up spending more money to get it back to shape. So let's just say after it's in okay shape, she's able to really start saving a lot of that money, right? 75% of the income is there for extra savings or utility. Maybe after bills and everything, she can at least put a good 50 to 40% away and not touch it. So when the market drops and it shifts, like I said before, same situation, she can't really sell or refinance, but that monthly payment gives her a lot more breathing room. So if Sam was in the pool and the water's up to here, and we can't have a cramp, can't have water levels change or anything, Alex is in a situation where her water is to here, so she doesn't have to worry about if the water goes up, head is still above water. If there's a cramp, ouch, that hurts, you're still good. She's in a much more shallow part of the pool, you're able to handle any emergencies or anything. And if she wanted to, let's say she already built up a good cushion, she can still live her life, go travel, go do whatever, and is not put in a position where she's going to have to get rid of that home. So Alex, still crappy situation. She's still not, wasn't a wise investment per se because she wasn't able to sell. But really, the only time you're impacted by prices going down is if you want to refinance or selling. So that's why I keep telling people when they're buying a house right now, it's not about like, oh, the market's going to crash and this, all the other. It's about your personal situation you're putting yourself in. Alex and Sam make the same amount of money. Sam made a little bit different decisions. And now when the prices drop, if the prices drop, whatever your field you're in, Sam's going to be put in a position where something bad cannot happen. Alex put herself in a situation where, hey, if something bad happens, I'll be okay. Even if it takes up a big chunk of money, even if she loses her job for a few months, she can build up that savings and put herself in a good position. Both of them are not resistant to the market changes or anything like that. And if the prices ever go back up, which they do, they just don't go straight down, they don't go straight up, they eventually will correct themselves. Or let's say they're in a position where, hey, I want to get out of this area, but I can't sell, so I'm going to turn it into a rental. Alex put herself in a much better position where she probably has more equity. Yes, she probably can't rent it for as much money, but because she has better monthly payment, she can probably make a little more money than Sam can. And last but not least, let's talk about Taylor's situation. Taylor decided not to buy. Decided to say, you know what, everything's just too crazy for me right now. I'm going to hang back and just observe, right? They're not even in the pool. Sam is in the pool. Alex is in the pool. Taylor is outside of the pool observing. Now, this isn't a good or bad thing. Good because I guess they're not going to be putting themselves in a situation where they're drowning, but technically, even if you don't own a home, you could still put yourself in a drowning situation with debt, right? But either way, when it comes to housing, they're not in that position. They're not playing the game. They're not in the pool. They're just observing. So the good part about this is they can step back and while the market adjusts and it changes, they can get in the pool when they're in the position where they're going to be closer to Alex's position where they're not drowning. If Taylor were to get into the pool now, they would be in Sam's position and they are aware that that's not the right position to be in. So they're going to just hang back and wait. But let me just give a word of caution here. It never feels like the right time to buy. It always feels scary. Believe it or not, there were people in 2019, 2020 that were staying and telling their kids, you are so stupid for buying a house right now. This is the dumbest decision in the world. You should just wait for the market to crash. There's people that in the early 2010s decided to say, you know what? You're so stupid for buying right now. The market just crashed. You need to wait, right? And of course, in hindsight, we can say that's complete terrible, right? Because the houses were so cheap, and people that bought then and sold later, or they had, if you would have bought 20 houses in 2012, even 20 houses in 2020 and 19, you can sell them all right now, and you're not even watching this video. You're probably just, sitting on some beach somewhere drinking some margaritas. But the point is, it's always going to be terrifying to buy. It's always going to feel like it's not the right time. And you may think that prices are going to drop or rates are going to drop, and you're going to somehow get a brain, like something switches in your brain to say, yeah, it is the right time to buy. The reality is, my friend, it's not ever going to feel that way. The grass doesn't get greener. You don't become a different person in a different market. The people making housing market crash videos will continue to make housing market crash videos. They're not going to just suddenly turn and just be like, hey, the market's doing great. It's not. So instead, if this video has showed you anything, looking inward and seeing when is the pool right for me? Is the pool going to get me in a situation where I'm going to be underwater? Or is the pool going to put me in a situation where it's nice in there? Because at the end of the day, this is my biased opinion. Some might say it's because I'm a realtor saying this. I think owning a home should be eventually your goal. Because as we are here, squawking about whether it's a good or bad time to buy, corporate investors are still out there buying multiple properties at a high level and turning houses into rentals. And they're not targeting mansions. They're targeting single family homes for like first time home buyers, homes that should be going to people that to own houses. They're buying those up and they're turning those into super high rentals. So while we're here squawking, they're doing that. So I think it should be your goal, but it's also smart to analyze. Are you a Sam? Are you an Alex? And if you're a Taylor, that's okay. But don't stay out of the pool forever. Keep an eye on the interest rates. Save your down payment. Save your emergency funds. Really build your cushion. Do work and be prepared. Get your floaties pumped. Put some sunscreen on. Stretch. Don't eat before. Prepare to get in there. Don't just be one of those people that are just on the sideline just pointing and laughing at everybody. So what should you do? Really weigh your pros and cons of buying right now. And don't look at the housing market as a whole, as an investment. Because if you want to go look at housing as an investment, yes, people get lucky sometimes and make a lot of money, but quite frankly, there are safer and smaller ways to invest your money in. If you want to go into housing, real estate investment, that's a whole nother enchilada. So really weigh the pros and cons of if you were to get in the pool right now or get in the house and the housing market crashes, would you still be okay, or would you be put in a position where the water is inching up and putting you in a position where you're going to drown? Is your income stable? Is your personal financial goals met? Are you close to them? How far away from you? And are you emotionally and spiritually ready to handle any distresses the market will come? Because I tell you what, if you're one of those people that are going to buy a house and check your value every month, every week, don't buy. You're not ready for this market. No one can predict the future, but being financially and emotionally healthy and being educated about what's going on can make all the difference. It's not about buying a home. It's about making your home.